America's occupation of Iraq to speed up the transfer of power to the Iraqi people. Paul Bremer's also pledging to speed up economic reconstruction and give locals more control of security. It comes after a suicide bombing spree and fears of an increased campaign against the occupying forces. Tonight, Prime Minister Helen Clark is on her way home from Iraq after a visit to New Zealand Army engineers kept short because of security concerns. Hewitt Barnsley is in Basra.
Helen Clark at Basra, a prime ministerial arrival watched by vigilant eyes. New Zealand engineers are based at a British Army camp, but Helen Clark feels right at home. 61 New Zealand men and women are helping rebuild Iraq.
And we feel really proud of you. You know, it's a long way from Linton Camp to this sort of environment.
This sort of environment is hostile.
One of the first water tank stands that I went to have a look at, this is where they were.
These photos are as close as the Prime Minister gets to the New Zealand projects. The military says it's too dangerous for a personal visit. Let me give you one example of why the Prime Minister has spent most of her time in Basra, secure inside an army camp. This is the helmet worn by Captain Gardner, the New Zealander whose military vehicle was bombed last week. Round here at the back, a scar left by a piece of shrapnel, evidence that the helmet probably saved his life, and evidence too that the streets of Basra are no safe place for a Prime Minister. The engineers can only work safely when someone is watching their backs.
The biggest threat to security is thinking that there is no threat to security. And that's the one thing I just keep pumping into these guys.
This is a reminder to be careful. Captain Gardner's comrades inspect the uniform he was wearing when he was attacked. Everything he wore that day is later destroyed by fire.
It's like leaving an old book. It'll just gather dust and old wounds will open up. Yeah. So you need to destroy it as well.
The first casualty doesn't appear to have shaken New Zealand's commitment to Iraq.
And I know there's a job to be done, and that unless the reconstruction's put in place, it's going to be very hard to improve security.
After ignoring one fallen leader in the dust, the Prime Minister is returning home to run one country, leaving behind a team of New Zealanders to help rebuild another. Hewitt Barnsley, One News, Basra.
While Helen Clark was visiting New Zealand troops in Iraq, South Koreans were making their anger plain over plans to send in more soldiers. Students
Tonight it's a celebration for some as America suffers its deadliest single attack in Iraq.
He sent an email of protest to the US Embassy. Now it's landed him in court.
A wake-up call. Has Wales exposed the weak points in the All Blacks machine?
And honouring the long-time language teacher they're calling simply the best.
Good evening. President Bush is vowing not to retreat from America's mission in Iraq, despite the deadliest attack on US troops since the fall of Saddam Hussein. A helicopter carrying soldiers to a rest break was shot down west of Baghdad. 15 were killed and 21 injured. And despite the growing resistance to foreign troops, Prime Minister Helen Clark says the New Zealand Army engineers in Basra will continue their work. We'll have more on that shortly, but first...
30 American soldiers have now died since President Bush declared an end to the war in May. Another 1,700 have been hurt. Polls in the US now show public confidence is waning over the way the Bush administration is handling the crisis. Alex Van Well investigates America's disintegrating hold on Iraq.
America's rising body count in Iraq is the last thing the Bush administration needs.
It was a terrible day. In war, there are going to be terrible days.
But in Fallujah, this is another trophy.
It is a lesson to the greed of the aggressors. They will never be safe until they get out of our land.
Fallujah lies within a Sunni-dominated part of central Iraq, a place where resistance to the US has been intense. There are two theories why. It was a stronghold of support for Saddam Hussein's Sunni regime, and it was where American forces opened fire in April, killing 13 demonstrators. But who might be behind this attack?
They are a mixture of ex-Saddamists who think they've got a hope of coming back, which of course they don't, of imported terrorists and young men from around the Arab world who want to have a go at the Americans in particular, and some of the 100,000 criminals that Saddam let out just before the conflict started.
Helen Clark, just back from Iraq, says New Zealand's engineers there are also at risk, but their work is essential.
If there's to be any chance of meeting the sort of timelines for moving Iraq back to full sovereign autonomy, its own government, then you have to be showing some progress on the ground with normalisation and stabilisation of life.
The US administrator in Baghdad wants Iraqis to take charge of their own affairs sooner rather than later, a view likely to be gaining ground in Washington with every fresh attack. Alex Van Well, One News.
A written protest against
agreement with other parties.
US jets have launched bombing raids around 2 Iraqi towns for the first time since the official end of combat back in May. The escalation comes as the US commander vowed to get even tougher on those attacking coalition forces. But it's Iraqis who've suffered most in the latest wave of attacks. A bomb exploded as it was being planted near a police checkpoint in the southern city of Basra. The bomber was killed along with 2 passers-by. 9 others were injured. 61 men and women from the New Zealand Defence Force are based in Basra on a mission to rebuild the city. But the increasing attacks mean they're having to step up their protection. Ewart Barnsley reports.
Load. Action.
The start of the working day, guns loaded and ready to fire. It's the last thing to do before leaving camp, a reminder of danger outside.
At the moment, there's no New Zealand soldier that has fired his weapon.
Outside, safety in numbers.
But as soon as we leave the gate, then we have to be switched on 100%.
The Kiwis travel by convoy, so-called white vehicles for passengers, green for security. Wire mesh protects the windows.
This is to stop rocks, bricks being thrown at the soldiers and hitting them, which happens quite a lot.
The driver and passenger carry guns. In the back, another armed soldier.
Our top cover will be looking down at the white vehicle, making sure that nobody is pointing a weapon at that vehicle or throwing a grenade into the ute.
In the white vehicle, the driver and the passenger also carry guns, for good reason.
It looks like a VIP vehicle. These are the types of vehicles that are being targeted.
Hardly reassuring for myself and my news team. We used this vehicle. The Kiwi offered no protection. We were attacked with rocks on one drive.
I come halfway around the world to spend 6 months over here to try and help, and they're throwing things at me. I have been hit a couple of times myself. So hitting the helmet with a stone, and they're pretty good with their slingshots as well.
Even at work, someone watches the New Zealanders back. But it is difficult being safe and being friends.
Mixing with the locals. Yeah, just getting to being pretty friendly and stuff, so not too much century going on there, to be honest.
But danger is only a footstep from the Kiwis' camp. The engineers patrol trash buildings of Saddam's old naval academy. All this damage hasn't been caused by war, it's been caused by looters who followed after the war. Now there's one final act of destruction to come. These stairs are going to be demolished, blown up by the New Zealand engineers. The reason for that can be found just up at the top there. The stairs lead to the roof, which gives any potential sniper a perfect view of the camp. That risk is one reason why guns are carried at all times around the camp.
Really, just in case something happens. We've got a gun market straight across the river, and shots have been fired into this hangar.
Iraq has no shortage of weapons.
Every day there's gunfire. The guys have to be aware of their surroundings.
This live rocket-propelled grenade was left on the street. It can be bought for 6 bottles of fresh water. Reports from Basra say there's been a surge in violence. The New Zealanders should be helping rebuild Iraq, but keeping safe has become a time-consuming priority. Ewart Barnsley, One News, Basra.
Still to come, a testing...
American soldiers have been killed and 5 others injured in 2 separate attacks in Iraq. 2 died in a bomb attack north of Baghdad, while another was killed when a bomb detonated near the centre of the city. The US military says it had earlier killed 7 suspected Iraqi militants in a helicopter raid near the northern city of Tikrit. Meanwhile, it's a more humanitarian mission for members of the New Zealand military based in the southern Iraqi city of Basra. The army engineers are helping reconstruct a city neglected for years by Saddam Hussein's regime. Ewart Barnsley with this report.
Saddam Hussein's palace in Basra, a modern facade for a country trapped in the past.
Not like New Zealand, not like USA. You see, we have big money in Iraq, we have petrols, but the situation is still the same like before 2 centuries ago.
Basra's home to 500,000, a city of contrasts. The satellite dish dominates the skyline, the donkey, the road. At times it's difficult to know if it's a city or a farm. Many streets look like rubbish dumps. Hard to imagine some believe that the Bible's Garden of Eden is nearby. For 30 years, one thing has overshadowed life for all who live here.
Only war. War with Iran, war with Kuwait, war with US, war... No, just war.
Modern bridges are in ruins. Saddam's luxury yacht has been bombed into a watery grave, and it has plenty of company along the river. And all around Basra, another graveyard, a rusting reminder of all the wars that have raged across this dry, dusty land. Now, there's another battle to be fought.
Many disease, yes, too much disease.
That battle involves reinforcements from New Zealand.
I wanted to help the Iraqi people have a better life after what they've been through.
61 New Zealand men and women, most of them army engineers, are helping rebuild Iraq, work making an immediate impact.
This is the village of At-Tamuma on the outskirts of Basra. It's home to about 2,000 people, and the engineers from the New Zealand Army have brought something here for the very first time, something we all take for granted.
Fresh, disease-free water. And the pipeline delivering it to the village homes for the first time was built with Kiwi help.
You are from New Zealand?
Yes, I am.
We thank you because they save us from the old regime.
Yes.
And don't leave us, please.
Clean water's just one target for the New Zealanders. The school's been empty since the war that toppled Saddam's regime. It's one of 12 in Basra the engineers are repairing.
The majority of the community helps out. We get a few smokers brought to us every now and then, and they seem quite pleased with that. The schools are getting done up so the children can get back to school.
1763. This New Zealand deployment continues for 6 months. A helping hand now that hopefully will make a difference for Iraq's future. Ewart Barnsley, One News, Basra.
Still to come, bright young things unveil their high-tech invention.
Assumption of power, the state of occupation will end.
A new constitution and elections are promised within 2 years. New Zealand's small defence force in Iraq is beginning its 2nd month of reconstruction and humanitarian work in the south of the country. The team of 61 are all volunteers, and Ewart Barnsley reports some have made a personal sacrifice to help others.
She's a gardener and a demolition expert, and a bride of 3 months, too busy for a honeymoon.
You miss each other, of course, but it doesn't really affect you too much because you know what you're supposed to be doing, and then you know it's your job, and you know at the end of the day you're going to see each other anyway.
Romance sacrificed for reconstruction.
I'm very happy about New Zealand people, about New Zealand forces to come here to help us in my country.
After refusing to commit troops to the war that toppled Saddam Hussein, the New Zealand government ordered a small force, 61 men and women, to Iraq, all of them volunteers.
Oh, definitely. I would have been quite upset if it didn't come.
Fortress Lines is the camp the New Zealanders share with British engineers. The previous occupant is long gone.
I don't even get it to your door.
This will be as close as the Kiwis are likely to get to the old regime. 6 to 8 soldiers share one tent. They're home for 6 months.
It is pretty comfortable inside the walls. Pretty much as long as you make to here with you as well, time flies.
Every New Zealander carries this piece of home, a shield carved from totara.
Basically, it's for to get everyone together, to unite as one as well, and hopefully it's some sort of meaning for back home.
In the camp kitchen, another reminder of places far away.
The Edmonds, goes everywhere with me.
How come?
How come? It's my Bible.
The mess is one of the few places where soldiers don't carry guns. Even so, protection's not far away. At the start of their deployment, the engineers reckon that 80% of their work is security, 20% reconstruction. By the time that redeployment ends in the new year, they hope those figures are reversed. 20% security, 80% helping rebuild a country. Security's not the only problem. The Kiwis' reconstruction work is often undone by thieves.
All good New Zealanders can handle the frustrations that they get, and they're not so bad given this country.
Kiwi. And there's another problem. Everyone knows this bird, but few know where it comes from.
New Zealand, Scotland, Ireland. Yeah, New Zealand.
Helping rebuild a country is one thing. Making sure the locals remember who's helping them is one extra job for the New Zealand contingent in Iraq. Ewart Barnsley, One News, Basra.
Still to come, a Māori trust takes on the government over the